Originali.
Irene Ruddock è la protagonista di A Lady of Letters, il monologo scritto da Alan Bennett, incluso nella raccolta Talking Heads, di cui Marco Piovaz in questo episodio ci propone la seconda parte. Come potremmo definire la signora Ruddock? Proviamo a pensarci. È una donna di mezza età che vive sola nei sobborghi di Bradford. E come molte persone sole, cosa fa? Coglie attentamente e minuziosamente tutto ciò che accade attorno a lei. La signora Ruddock, in particolare, è capace di cogliere tutti i mali del mondo, reali o immaginari che siano, e non si astiene dal denunciarli, anzi, lo fa. E come se lo fa? E come? Semplicemente prendendo in mano la penna e scrivendo. A Lady of Letters, da Talking Heads di Alan Bennett, il secondo episodio, ora su Caffè Italia, a Lingue Originali, dalla voce di Marco Piovaz.
Prison. They have it easy. Television, table tennis, art. It's just a holiday camp. Do wonder there's crime. And people say, well, what can you do? Well, you can get on to your MP for a start. I do, regularly. Got a reply to one letter this morning. I'd written drawing his attention to a hitherto unnoticed factor in the rise of crime, namely the number of policemen these days who wear glasses. What chance would they have against a determined assailant? He noted my comments and promised to make them known in the proper quarter. His labour, but it's always very good note paper and beautifully typed. When I dusted round and done my job, I had a walk on to the end and bought a little packet of pork sausage and some Basildon Bond. Big hair in the sausage. So I wrote off to the makers enclosing the hair, stuck it under a bit of sellotape. Little arrow, this is the hair. I emphasised that I didn't want a substitute packet, as it was plainly manufactured under unhygienic conditions. So would they send me a refund of the purchase price plus the cost of postage? I don't want inundating with sausage. I keep wondering about the kiddie opposite. Haven't seen it for a week or two. And they're out all the time. Every single night they go off and the kiddie doesn't go. And nobody comes in to sit. It can't be more than 5. Where do they get the money to go out? That's what I'd like to know. Because he's not working, spends all day tinkering with that car. There wants to be a bit less of the car and a bit more of the kiddie. It never plays out, and they want fresh air, do kiddies. It's a well-known fact. We don't hear it crying now, nothing. And I've never seen a cloth on. Teapot stuck there, milk bottle. It'll surprise me if they're married. He has got a tattoo anyway. My mother knew everybody in this street. She could reel off the occupants of every single house. Everybody could, once upon a time. Now they come and they go. That's why these tragedies happen. Nobody watching. If they knew they were being watched, they might behave. I'd talked to next doors about it, only there hasn't been any contact since the business of the dustbins. And this other side's Asians, so they won't know what's normal and what isn't. But I've a feeling he's been educated and the kiddies are always beautifully turned out. I just wish they'd do something about the privet. I thought I'd go and have a word with the doctor, drop a hint there somehow. There used to be just one doctor. Now they've all amalgamated, so it's a bit of a lucky dip. Young fellow. I said I was getting upset like I did before. Before what? He said. I said, it's in my notes. So he read them and then said, you've been getting a bit upset like you did before. I'll give you something to take. So I told him about the kiddie and he said, well, these tablets will help you to take a more balanced view. I gave them 3 or 4 days and they didn't seem to me to make much difference. So I went along again. Different doctor this time. Same rigmarole. I said I didn't want any more tablets, I just wanted the name of the firm manufacturing the ones I'd already had, because I think they ought to be told if their product isn't doing the trick. The doctor said it would be easier if he gave me some new tablets, and anyway I couldn't write, the firm was Swiss. I said, what difference does it make? Everybody speaks English now. He said, well, we don't want to go into that, do we? And writes me another prescription. I shan't be bothered with it. In fact, I put it down the toilet. I don't know who you write to about doctors. After I had my tea, I sat in the front room in the dark, watching the house. He's messing about with the car, one of those little vests on they have now, without sleeves. Radio going hammer and tongs. No kiddies still. I don't even know the name. Thinking about it afterwards, I realised it must have been the doctor that alerted the vicar. Came round anyway. Not the old vicar. I'd have known him. This was a young fellow in a collar and tie. Could have been anybody. I didn't take the chain off. I said, how do you know you are the vicar? Have you any identification? He shoves a little cross round the door, and I said, what's this? He said, a cross. I said, a cross doesn't mean anything. Youths wear crosses nowadays, hooligans. They wear crosses in their ears. He said, not like this. This is a real cross, a working cross. It's the tool of my trade. I was still a bit dubious. Then I saw he had cycle clips on, so I let him in. He chats for a bit, this and that, no mention of God for long enough. They keep him up the sleeves for as long as they can, vicars. They know it puts people off. Went through a long rigmarole about love, how love comes in different forms, loving friends, loving the countryside, loving music. People would be surprised to learn, he said, and I thought, here we go. People would be surprised to learn that they love God all the time and just didn't know it. I cut him short. I said, if you come round here to talk about God, you're barking up the wrong tree. I'm an atheist. He was a bit stumped, I could see. They don't expect you to be an atheist when you are a miss. Vicars, they think if you're a single person, they're on a good wicket. He said, well, Miss Ruddock, I shall call again. I shall look on you as a challenge. He hadn't been gone long when there's another knock. Only this time it's a policeman with a policewoman in tow. Ask if they can come in and have a word. I said, what for? He said, you know what for. I said, I don't, but I let them in. Takes his helmet off, only young, and says he'll come straight to the point. Was it me who'd been writing these letters? I said, what letters? I don't write letters. He said, letters. I said, everyone writes letters. I bet you write letters. He said, not like you, love. I said, don't love me. You'd better give me your name and number. I intend to write to your superintendent. It turns out it's to do with a couple opposite. I said, well, why are you asking me? He said, we are asking you because who was it who wrote to the chemist saying his wife was a prostitute? We're asking you because who was it who gave the lollipop man a nervous breakdown? I said, well, he was interfering with those children. He said, the court bound you over to keep the peace. This is a serious matter. I said, it is a serious matter. I can't keep the peace when there's cruelty and neglect going on under my nose. I shouldn't keep the peace when there's a child suffering. It's not my duty to keep the peace then, is it? So then, Madam takes over, the understanding approach. She said, didn't I appreciate this was a caring young couple? I said, if they were a caring young couple, why did they never see the kiddie? If they were a caring young couple, why did they go getting off every night, leaving the kiddie alone in the house? She said, because the kiddie wasn't alone in the house. The kiddie wasn't in the house. The kiddie was in hospital in Bradford. That's where they were going every night. And that's where the kiddie died last Friday. I said, what of? Neglect? She said, no, leukemia. He said, you'd better get your hat and coat on.
A Lingue Originali, Marco Piovaz ha letto per voi in lingua inglese. Lo ritroveremo su Caffè Italia la prossima settimana, venerdì, sempre alle ore 22. Ma Lingue Originali è in onda anche il sabato con Nadia Meroni, con la lettura in lingua tedesca, e la domenica con Barbara Marchand, per quella in lingua francese. Vi ringraziamo per l'ascolto e vi diamo appuntamento a Lingue Originali fra 7 giorni, sempre su Caffè Italia, la radio e il podcast dall'aroma italiano, e non solo.
Lingue Originali.